with that being said, let's transition and talk about some of the big trailers that have been debuting in the lead up to the Super Bowl and, of course, during the big game itself. What's happened now in the past few years, as opposed to maybe 10 or 15 years ago, many trailers would just drop their 30-second spots during the game, and that would be the first time that we would see them. Now, studios have pivoted their strategy and they've built out entire marketing campaigns to lead up to the Super Bowl and then to also then pay off at the Super Bowl. For example, the Fast X trailer came out days before the Super Bowl actually happened. The Flash campaign slowly started to roll out a few days before the big game actually happened. And one trailer we're going to talk about in a second here, Air, the new Ben Affleck movie, that trailer debuted a week before, but they still had a big game spot. So things are definitely a lot different now where you can see these marketing campaigns sort of expand and they can extend the conversation not only in the game itself, but of course around the lead up to the game, the days leading up to the game. But we have a few that we're going to talk about. There's a lot that happened during the big game. There was a lot of 30-second spots that we can maybe reference and acknowledge, but I don't know if we have to have full conversations about them because there just wasn't that much to look at. But let's start off with some new looks for things that we haven't seen and just overall what our impressions were. And I think we have to start off with the Flash trailer from DC. Which we were expecting this to happen. It was pretty much confirmed that they were going to debut a trailer during the big game, and they did not disappoint. Now, it's important to say that we've talked about this movie on and off for probably the past 2 years or so. This is one of the most hellacious development periods of a film I've ever seen. Not only because this film has been delayed numerous times, has gone through maybe 4 or 5 different director and writing teams, but as we have discussed on this podcast, its central star has been embroiled in a lot of controversy over the past couple of years due to their personal lives and choices that they've made that have just not been the greatest. Now, all that aside, we now have our first look at this movie to actually judge it for what we're seeing based on the marketing. With that all out the way, I just want to get your first impressions, man, based on what you saw, of course, because you have very strong opinions about Ezra Miller. You always have, and you stuck by him. Based off of what you saw in this trailer and the big game spot that debuted, how are you feeling about this film? Did it excite you? Did it change how your overall anticipation for The Flash is going to be as we lead into its release in June?
You know, even before the launch, I think, of this trailer, there was a lot of buzz of, very few people who clearly had seen the movie, namely James Gunn, who was a little biased. Ezra Miller's kind of always been on James Gunn's team. We know he's one of the only people that pulled up to the Peacemaker finale or whatever it was. But he said he loves the movie. I was like, okay. There's some other buzz going around. Some other critics like, that Flash movie, guys. I'm like, what? What are we talking about? The idea that we've even talked about where all this is happening. This is the most protected actor in the world in Ezra Miller, and they're not cutting this movie. What the hell's going on? Like, this movie must be crazy. Like, that's before all of this trailer. That's what I'm thinking. Like, this movie, it has to be fire. And I'm here to say that this trailer kind of fits that for me. The trailer is pretty fire. I mean, it has a lot of things that I'm liking what I'm seeing. The visual effects, I know it's like very outside of what we're talking about here, but like there's a moment where the Flash runs and stops and the suit just looks good. I was like, wait a second. Did that actually look okay? Was that not janky? Was that almost a normal run? I don't know, but it feels more aligned with what I was hoping for him to be in the beginning. I think watching this trailer, one of my biggest criticisms with the Flash that we've talked about is he felt too Wally-ish to me. There's too much happiness, too much joking.
Wally West, you mean the other
too much Wally West? Correct. Too much Wally West version of the Flash to me. Not enough Barry. And this trailer gives Barry. And it's like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It not only gives Barry, it very much highlights the other stars in the film with Michael Keaton's Batman and Sasha Calle's Superwoman. Yes. And it's not like they don't just take Michael Keaton's Batman and copy and paste. They upgrade them to 2023. The little action scene there, I was like, Yes, like that's absolutely what you're supposed to do. And hey, man, I think Sasha Kaye. You said they was talking about her at the Super. Hey, if this Supergirl looks like this trailer looks, hey, because I think I knew Michael Keaton was coming, and I had an expectation that if they're gonna do him well, I feel like I just knew they were. I knew this trailer was gonna do him well, right? Sasha Kaye had no idea that it was coming this hard for her in this
Yeah.
trailer, and it made me like. I questioned. I was like, "Is she my favorite part of this trailer?" Because there's something about her, like she's darker than the Kara that I think that we're used to seeing, and she has a different haircut, and the fly dynamics look really good, and I don't know, man. I was like, oh my goodness, is this what is this movie? Like, I really don't know. Of course, I'm still not 100% sold on Ezra Miller. We'll have to see the performances as they come out, but what this trailer was giving, what Flashpoint is, it seemed very accurate to me.
That's
What
a big
the
piece of it,
way
Flashpoint,
it's a
right? Like,
big piece. That's a big piece. That's Barry. You know what I'm saying? It felt right to me. And so what this trailer was giving, man, it was I think it was giving what I needed it to give. I think it's still surprising in some ways, but again, not surprising in the fact that a lot of people was talking good about it. You know what I mean? As a film. So as of right now, man, I'm having a good time. I really like this trailer. I really don't have many complaints. The posters that came out we're good. Like that was the first surprise. I was like, wait, I think I like this poster because because low key, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was ready to hate a little bit. I was ready
I
to be
saw
like,
you tweet
no,
that. Like, I actually like this design. Wait a second.
yeah. I was like, I was ready to hate, man, but I couldn't, I couldn't. But and part of it also stems from I'm a big Flash fan. I really like the Flash. He's always been one of my favorite DC superheroes. I just need him to come. I just need him to come correct. And right now, regardless of whatever's going on in with Warner Brothers and their still partial fire that they have going on, or with Ezra Miller in their partial fire, this is a good looking trailer, and I think that kind of makes me excited.
Dude, this trailer is fucking sick. I was completely perplexed at just watching this unfold because I could not have predicted I would come out of my chair and literally have an audible reaction to everything that I was saying. It's the first, like, honestly, when we talk about DC specifically, it's the
Yeah.
first DC trailer that's made me feel this way. Probably since that first Batman v Superman trailer, when
Mm-hmm.
still had all the optimism in the world about the experiment of what the Snyderverse was going to be at the time when things
Yeah.
were still like ahead of us and we hadn't, gone across a lot of these controversies. I mean, looking at this, it was just like, holy shit, they really might be onto something. All of the
Mm-hmm.
chatter that we've been coming across over the past few months, the test screenings and people saying like, hey, y'all, this Flash movie's probably going to be really good. James Gunn, this might be one of the greatest superhero movies ever. Wait a second, dude. What are you saying? You made Guardians. You're saying that,
Facts.
and you didn't even have anything to do with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now we might have a reason to believe that stuff based off of what that trailer showed us. I mean, everything about it. What I love the most, even beyond all the stuff you said, because I'm totally in agreement with that. What I think I love the most is how big it felt, how
Yes.
important
Mm-hmm.
it actually feels. This doesn't feel like a small
Gravity.
movie. The
Yeah.
actual weight behind the story, which you have to have that type of weight presented with the Flashpoint story because it's really truly one of their biggest comic book events ever. And the fact that it gave off that feeling watching this is just like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a really, really important movie, even knowing that
Mm-hmm.
the DC universe is about to change dramatically over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And the look of it, the visual effects, I really, really love
Mm-hmm.
see movies look like from a visual effects perspective. There's just been so much conversation about the shortage and just how things are really, really challenging now. And somehow they still find a way to really give off that godlike impression with their visual effects. Things feel huge. They feel really, really seismic to a level that Marvel doesn't necessarily go for. They go for typically a more grounded approach, which for the
Mm-hmm.
most part works for them. But I just love the epic nature of how these DC movies feel. And a lot of this feels like it's calling back to that visual aesthetic and style that Zack Snyder had established with his movies.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Despite how you might feel about that, you can't deny that Zack Snyder as a visual artist is really on a different level, I think, compared to a lot of filmmakers. And I think
Mm-hmm.
carrying that over into this movie, I'm very much here for that. Michael Keaton, the fact that they just literally stopped the trailer in the middle of it just to have that moment for him to say I'm Batman, kudos to the marketing team. Brilliant move. You couldn't have done it
Mm-hmm.
any other way. He's fighting now. He is kicking all sorts of ass. I'm very much here for that. All the stuff you said about Sasha Kaye, she is the most interesting element that we know the least about that I just can't wait to see. Zod, Michael Shannon, has all of a
Wow.
sudden come back again, and he's like,
He's
in,
been in a lot of movies.
he's in like his fourth appearance now as Zod. Who would have called that 3 or 4 years ago? And just everything about it, and even beyond that, we have a reason to emotionally buy into the story. That moment where Barry's like, this is the universe my mother lives in. I don't want to see her die again. That's why I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
save this universe. Now we have a reason to see why this story is going to be important. And
Yep.
then last thing I'll just quickly say, fucking Batfleck is back, looking like a badass.
Crazy.
And Affleck probably, I don't even know when he filmed this stuff. He might have filmed that shit like 3 or 4 years ago. Like they've been sitting on that footage forever, but he looks so good. The Bat Pod
Mm-hmm.
has everything about it, man. It just really knocked me out. I was just so impressed by it. So this shot up to like one of my most anticipated movies of the year, which I just
Yep.
could not have called that coming into 2023 based off of all the bullshit that we've had to just endure. And now
Mm-hmm.
that the marketing campaign for this is launched, what I'm interested in is a couple of things. First, we've talked a lot about Ezra Miller and everything happening with them in the lead up to this movie. And I have to be reminded of the fact that we know that stuff. How many people actually know what's going on with Ezra Miller in their personal lives? Probably not that many people. I think a few people who follow this pundit space who are into comic book movies maybe keep
Mm-hmm.
with it, but I don't know if the general public, like if you talk to your grandma or your uncle, like are they really gonna know that Ezra Miller was doing this wild shit in Montana or Wyoming or wherever the fuck he was? I don't know. They probably don't really keep up with that stuff. So that's not to excuse the behavior, but I think that that's just something to remember and keep in mind when we talk about people's excitement about this movie. The second thing is, of course, knowing that the DC universe is about to change. Shout out to The Rock. Um, where do we stand at the end of this movie? Do you think by the end of the Flash movie, when we see it in June, do you feel confident that we're gonna have a sure pointed direction in terms of, hey y'all, this movie actually reset quote unquote the DC universe?
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever the James Gunn vision of this universe rolls out, we'll be able to look back to Flash and say, like, oh yeah, they cleaned that up nicely. They actually ended the
Mm-hmm.
verse era really nicely. Do you feel confident that we're going to get that sort of closure by the end of the movie come June?
Part of me hopes so. I remember they tried to do the same thing with like Days of Future Past. They tried to come back and be like, oh, everything else is deleted. What's that Drea quote? Her wholeness could be deleted. I don't know, man. It's really hard to say, only because this existed before them. You know what I mean? Only because the Flash, all of this was already done before them. What does make me want to say yes is because James Gunn kind of said it. He was like, all right, after Flash, we'll have a very definitive, this is the new thing. And so part of me wants to say yes. I think it really depends on this movie, man. It's so hard to tell there's so many Batmans in the world right now. You know, there's
A
two in this
Batman for all
movie
seasons,
alone.
boy.
Oh my God, there's so many Batmans in the world right now. And I know that's a big criticism, of course, but I think that's an interesting way to be like, I don't know. There's so much
Yeah.
happening. I want to say yes, I really do, but I think it's really about one, like how the movie ends, and also how they communicate the end of that movie. Like part of me wants the movie to end, right? And we're like, okay, that's where we are. And then part of me wants a couple weeks to go by and for James Gunn to come out and be like, okay, y'all, now that the movie has come out, this is how it relates to the things that we're doing or not doing or lack thereof. I would love that. It'd be like, that's how you like really clean it. You know what I mean? I don't want this movie to come out and maybe they just say nothing. You know what I mean? Maybe even if double down the marketing, like new hashtag, this is the restart of everything, or Flashpoint DC Studio. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like do a little bit extra to show the people this is the new beginning, or whatever your direction is. And I think if they do that, then I'm on board. But that's a little more work than I can just technically give them credit for right now. But I think that's something that would definitely help them in the long run.
I sort of feel like Gunn and Safran are they're almost engineering this movie to do just that, to
Mm-hmm.
end everything that we've known about the Snyderverse while simultaneously setting up what they have coming with their future plans. I'm not saying that by the end of The Flash, we're going to get the reveal of whoever the Superman's going to be. I'm not saying that, but I think that because they've come in at this particular point, like, yes, the movie was made before them, but they're still in post-production. They can
That's
still
true.
influence that movie in a lot of ways. We always
Hmm.
hear movies are made in the edit bay, right?
Right.
You can do really whatever you want at that point once you have the footage, and they can even do pickups if they needed to. There is the conundrum of Aquaman still happening after the fact. That still has
Yeah.
to come out in December. So I don't know if it's going to be as clean as we maybe like it to be. But also, Jason Momoa visited Gunn and Safran and came out happy as hell about something. He said he had a meeting with them and he was super excited. And when the announcement rolled out from Gunn, we had heard nothing about the status of Jason Momoa and Aquaman and if
Hmm.
he's going to be Lobo or not. Like, we didn't know. So I wonder maybe if they figured out a way to, as we have speculated about, maybe keep certain elements while transitioning into the new elements. Maybe that's a piece of it. Like,
Hmm.
hell, perhaps this Supergirl could be the Supergirl leading into the next iteration of the DCU. I don't know. I'm just speculating and spitballing right now, but a
Right.
part of me thinks that they're engineering this movie to be something that it wasn't initially designed to be, which I'm not mad at because they kind of have to they have to deal with the cards that they're dealt. And there was also that rumor that Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill shot cameos for this movie that are all of a sudden going to be removed, which would
Hmm.
make sense because you don't want to tease a Henry Cavill that's not going to be around. So
Hmm.
I think that there's still a lot of questions. Of course, we still have a long way to go until the release of the movie, but so far, so fucking good. They did an incredible job with this first trailer. Let's talk
Yep.
about a couple of other trailers. We saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 rolled out another trailer. We talked about that first trailer a few weeks ago. Ironically enough, James Gunn is still making a Marvel movie while simultaneously running DC. But this trailer gave us a little bit more of the story. We saw more new footage. I think we got a lot more of the high evolutionary that we didn't get in that first trailer. Definitely a bigger focus on Rocket. It feels like this movie is going to focus on his character a lot and the origin story behind Rocket, as well as how the high evolutionary impacted and influenced the creation of Rocket. We continue to see a lot of sadness. I think it's pretty clear somebody's going to go, maybe even
Oh, for
multiple
sure.
go for sure.
Hmm.
Most of this cast has pretty much said, hey, y'all, we're not coming back. It's deuces after this movie. Like, I love the fact that they just have all pretty much like simultaneously said, like, yeah, this is kind of it for us, even though that's probably not going to be the case for a few of them. I imagine
Right.
some of them will stick around, but Batista's going to be gone. We know that. I don't know if Zoe Saldana's going to stick around. She's going to be wrapped up in 12 Avatar sequels for the next 50 years. So who knows really what the state of each individual character is. But overall, I thought it was a really good trailer. It kept my excitement up, and I believe in James Gunn, especially as it relates to this particular franchise. So can't wait for May 5th to roll around.
Yeah, this is just another one of those trailers to be like, look, y'all, Guardians is coming out. It looks good. It's exactly what you expect it to be. We give y'all a couple more looks at some other characters, like you said, High Evolutionary, Adam Warlock still looks really good to me. And yeah, and to give you red herrings, like everything is pointing towards the Rocket story, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure there's some other stuff in here we really don't know about. I love seeing Cosmo here. I hope Cosmo's a little bit more involved. Cosmo's pretty cool. Um, I love how Groot looks. We still get that buff looking, young looking Groot, whatever that is, man. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Like you said, it's a fine trailer. It still makes me excited to see the film, and it's crazy that James Gunn is just really out here doing this in two studios. It's kind of insane when you think about it, but here we are, man. I can't wait to see it.
It's really unprecedented, and it's only further fueled by the fact that he kind of can get away with saying whatever he wants. Like, he's been low key trashing Marvel and DC at the same time, and it's like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm making your movie, and I'm also working for you for the next 4 years and creating your new universe. So, like, what are you gonna do? Fire me? He's already been fired. He's kind of walked
That's
through
true.
that already. So
Hmm.
it's interesting to see some of the tweets and comments he makes about just the two respective franchises at this point. But can't wait for Guardians Volume 3 nonetheless. We also got a trailer, the first official trailer for Fast X, the 10th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise. Somehow this thing is still breathing. It's still going. The last Fast and Furious movie came out a couple of years ago. We reviewed it on this podcast. Neither one of us really liked it. It was not what we hoped it would be. We do know that this is sort of part one of a two-part finale to this franchise. They are about to ride off into the sunset for one last ride, one last time, one last fast, one last family. I mean, whatever the
Hmm.
fuck you want to say about it being one last time, it feels like they've been doing this for 12 years now. But Fast X not only has a large cast, but it also has
Insane.
some of the craziest stunts in a trailer I've already seen, and the movie's not even out yet. We still have like 3 months to the release. How do you feel about this trailer? Are you excited about a new Fast installment? And what's the craziest thing you saw in the trailer. I think we should also point that out. Literally like the craziest shot. And it's also,
Yeah,
before you go, we should say that there's a main trailer that's also like 4 minutes long.
it's
And then they
long.
had a big game spot that was a minute long that had a bunch of new footage too that was nowhere to be found in that 4 minute
Hmm.
trailer. So there's a lot to parse from this Fast X rollout. What do you think about it so far?
There's a lot going on. I don't even know where to start. The cast, I can't imagine how much money they had to dish out just for this cast alone. Like they just keep adding people. And it's like when you add somebody new and you still have all the old people come back, every single one of them without leaving
Everybody.
anybody behind, it's just really insane. Like how much we really got all this money. Um, I can't believe we made it this far. It's just crazy to like keep watching these. What I will say about Fast, even though I don't always enjoy, I think the movie for the story, I think most for the most part, I always enjoy the watching experience, if that makes sense. Like I'm so happy to be in the theater watching some ridiculous mindless action. You know what I'm saying? I think I always enjoyed that aspect, even though we didn't like the last movie. It's like, well, at least in the movie seeing a blockbuster type joint. And that's what it's providing right now. I will say part of me likes that some of the stunts are so ridiculous because that's like part of the fun in watching the movie. It's like, what are they going to do now? What crazy ridiculous thing are they going to do now? And it's a little bit more ridiculous is the way to put it. The difference is Tom Cruise does things that actors shouldn't do, like that like normal people shouldn't do. Fast does things that don't make any sense. Like this, like how is
Not
this thing
physically even
happening?
possible. How are we
Yeah,
doing this
like
right now?
how are we doing this? And my ridiculous moment, to be honest, is when it might be the simplest, one of the more simple moments in the trailer, but it's really when Vin Diesel jumps off a bridge and crashes two helicopters. It is the most crazy thing to me that this man has been tied up by two helicopters and he's just driving a car and he finds a way to pull down the helicopters to hit each other off of the highway. I just don't know how it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. It doesn't make it. He's actually a superhero that drives a car. That's what he is. That's what these people are. We have elevated. This is no longer a racing movie. This is Fast the Infinity Saga. Like it's kind of insane what we're watching here, man. And we just added freaking Aquaman, Jason Momoa into the mix now. Lord knows what ridiculous thing he's going to do in the
And he's
movie
the
to add
bad
to
guy
all this.
too, right?
The bad guy with John Cena still in the movie, with Charlize Theron still in the movie. Like, what? Who are we sure he's the villain? I don't even know. Like, it's crazy, man. It's a lot going on. That's what I got to say. It's so ridiculous that we're here, but again, for some reason, I'm still like, I, I will be there to watch it. Isn't Brie Larson in the movie too?
Yeah, yeah.
What is this cast? I just don't know, man. It's crazy.
You're really channeling Michael Corleone, Godfather 3. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. They really get you. They get us every time with this damn franchise, man. The fact that it started off as this really small level racing film in the first Fast and Furious movie, which is now turned into a global, worldwide espionage, superhero, space adventure, spy thriller, conspiracy, government intervention, whatever you can throw at it in terms of the type of action movie that it is. They have figured out a way to incorporate it. The bankroll for this cast is just astounding. I don't even want to know what the line items look like. We talked about it a few months ago, how the budget for this film was ballooning to a ridiculous level. It was at like 350 million. It already became like the third or fourth most expensive movie ever
Wow.
made. And when you look and see like that they have nothing but A-list talent associated with this cast, it makes complete sense because they refuse to actually kill people off. On top of that, the people who have been around for a long time, their salaries only increase every movie that they make. You're not going to make the same thing you made 2 movies ago. But in watching this, first of all, actually, I should start here. This trailer premiered at a full trailer event that they had in LA like a week ago. They had like a whole con to roll out this trailer, a 4-minute trailer. They brought out journalists and pundits. It was like a full fan event that had an expo floor, and it was like a concert, and all the stars of the movie were there for a trailer, bro. I was like, well, wait a second. what are we going to see here? And then they played the trailer like 12 times at that event before releasing it online. And I just watched it and my jaw was on the floor. I don't know. I don't know if even for good reasons. I think it was just on the floor because it's like, we're really still doing this at this
We're
point.
still here.
I I don't know what else to say about this movie besides
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, hey, you just got to let them rock and see how it goes
I'm with you, bro.
and see what turns out when that movie comes out. These are the two observations that I'll point out. The first is that the most ridiculous moment for me didn't come in the initial trailer, the 4 minute version. It came in the big game spot version that dropped during the Super Bowl. When you see Dominic Toretto driving down a dam, escaping an explosion, he's driving his Charger down a dam, like literally like the Hoover Dam or something. And it's just happening. It's just working. Physics don't apply at all. So whatever that's going to be in this movie, I can't even shudder to think about it. The second observation that I'll make is actually unrelated to what we saw in the trailer. Well, partially unrelated. The fact that Jason Statham is back in the movie. Now, we know that he was teased in the post-credit scenes of
Mm-hmm.
F9, but I've been wondering about the status of Hobbs and Shaw for a long time, which is the
Yeah,
spinoff with him and The Rock. And we know that The Rock is just like refusing to come back. He's the one person that is not returning, at least not
the
for
one guy.
the one guy. He has one more movie to possibly make a return before it's curtains. Jake
Mm-hmm.
Statham being here, I feel like tells us a lot. It tells us a lot about the status of Hobbs and Shaw, and it feels like that they might not make another one. There was also like a report a couple of weeks ago from one of the producers of Hobbs and Shaw saying like, yeah, we would love to make another one, but it's all dependent upon Dwayne and his schedule and what he wants to do. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm starting to feel like that maybe Dwayne is just like, you know what? I'm even good with that. Like if I'm gonna do a franchise, I need it to be my own. Like I really need it to be my own. And even
Mm-hmm.
though Hobbs and Shaw was a spinoff and he finally got away from Vin Diesel, it's still not really his. Like it's still
Yeah.
Vin's at the end of the day because Hobbs and Shaw
Mm-hmm.
is a spinoff. And so a part of me thinks like The Rock might be 1000% done with any of this stuff. And so Jason Statham being back here might kind of tell us that. But we'll have to see whatever this movie is. I don't know. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a whole bunch over the course of the next few months in the lead up to its release, but we'll stay tuned to Fast X and whatever the hell they're going to do with that film because by God, I just don't know. The last trailer I just want to quickly mention is for Air, which is Ben Affleck's new movie. I know we heard about this briefly a few months ago about just the deal that they had signed to develop this film with Amazon Studios, but they rolled out a trailer to give us a look at this film. And it's focusing on the story behind Nike, essentially trying to acquire Michael Jordan and his likeness and his rights to essentially create the Air Jordan shoe and Jordan brand and everything that has become over the past 40 some odd years, really becoming the biggest athletic brand out there. And so this is kind of telling the story of Phil Knight and the people behind that story that made this all come true. And it's filled with the star-studded cast. Not only do you have Ben Affleck directing, but he's also starring in the movie. Matt Damon is leading. Viola Davis is here. Chris
Mm-hmm.
Tucker is in the movie, which I did not know he was a part of this. Like, there's a lot of people attached to this project, and they're actually playing it as a big time release. It will have a theatrical rollout. It's going to come out in theaters April 5th, and I'm sure very shortly after that, it'll debut on Prime Video to be consumed for streaming. But what did you think about this first look at Air? Are you excited about it? And how do you feel about Ben Affleck also coming back and being in the director's chair?
Yeah. It's crazy because usually I feel like stories like this don't get like these A-list actors like this. I don't know how else to really phrase it. It's just wild because when you hear the story of the movie, you're like, oh, okay, I can see that potentially being something. Then you watch the trailer, you're like, dang, all these people are in the movie. I think Marlon Wayans is in it too. I think, which is crazy. Yeah, I just wasn't expecting it to be played up this much. I think I was looking for maybe like a slightly lower budget, kind of mid level ground movie, but they sending this thing to the wall. What's also interesting about this movie in general, it's about to be about Michael Jordan's shoe, and I bet you he's not even in it. Like nobody, they probably didn't get nobody to play Mike. They probably didn't get nobody
They had
to
a shot of the back of his head in the movie, but I don't know if we'll see him. It might just be an extra,
exactly.
right?
Mhm. It might just be an extra or something. So I think we'll have to see what's going on here. I'm excited about it just because I'm a fan of Jordans. Like people know I have a decent amount of J's myself. I really enjoy the silhouette of that shoe, at least the shoe like 1 through 11, and 13 in that way. So I think I'm excited to see the story of it come to light in that way. And then man, you add these actors and actress and Viola Davis, and I'm like, I'll be there. You know what I mean? And so it looks good, man. I was very unexpected, kind of everything for me. Unexpected story to make into a movie, unexpected actors, very just unexpected trailer too. It's just really unexpected for me. So I think that's what makes me intrigued to go watch it.
Yeah, certainly. I'm excited about it. And Ben Affleck, getting back into directing is something I'm definitely here for as well, just because he's made some really, really good movies. I think that he's a very, very talented director. So for him to be able to get back and flex that creative muscle and kind of let Matt Damon lead this movie, they also, they started their studio recently. They're going to be working together a lot more. We saw them most recently before this film in The Last Duel, which they also co-wrote that film and starred in it. So I just love to see these two best friends who have been knowing each other for such a long time. They got started at the same time, with Good Will Hunting and projects before that. Like they've just come up together. So to see them just reunite and creatively work together in this aspect is really cool. In addition
Yeah,
to
so
that, it's telling a story that I think a lot of people will be fascinated by.
mhm.
People probably don't know how difficult it was and how Nike was essentially not the behemoth that it is now. Like they were nowhere near the level of where they are now. They were actually very unknown at the time. They were certainly not leading in terms of sponsorships and athletic deals. Like Chuck Taylor was still like king of the mountain at that particular
Mhm.
time, and Adidas was a huge player in the game at that particular time. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Hopefully it is a good movie. There were also a lot of other big game spots. They had something for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yep.
Transformers Rise of the Beast had a spot. There was a cool one for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Scream
Mhm.
6 had a showing. These are a lot of movies that are going to be coming out in like the next few weeks. And so not a ton of new footage, but out of anything you saw outside of what we've talked about, anything else that excited you or any other key observations you took out of some of the other big game spots we saw?
Not necessarily. I will say I am still keeping my eye on Rise of the Beast from Transformers, man. I think I don't know, it's starting to look a little good to me. So that's the one I'm looking forward outside of this that I'm looking forward to, I think.
Yeah, and for me, I think Indiana Jones. I'm somewhat cautiously optimistic about it. James Mangold being
Hmm.
behind the director's chair gives me a ton of faith. He's just such a talented director, and I pretty much love every movie he's made. But I think we might have discussed this in the first trailer, but there's a lot of CG, and the Indiana
It
Jones
is.
movies have never been known for that. And so just seeing more CG shots, more CG heavy shots raises my eyebrow just a little bit. And so I'm kind of walking into this one just like fingers crossed that it will be the send off that we hope
Mhm.
it will be for that character and for Harrison Ford. But of course, we will know in a few short months. But folks, those are our thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show, and of course, all the big trailers that rolled out over the past week. If you